assume it's a range until it's no longer a range. That's the safest thing to do in these types of instances. And so while things look really bullish here, there is still a chance that we reject. I'm not saying we reject all the way back to the range lows, but we are coming into the part of the range where if it is going to reject, this is where it's going to happen. I think the likelihood of us trading above all-time high and then rejecting is a lot lower than rejecting before all-time high. You want to be a buyer at a discount and a seller at a premium. So this is 100% a place to be caution. This is not a place to be opening up fresh longs as we come into basically the most important resistance level that is between us and all-time high. Just looking at the weekly chart, regardless of how you view market structure, this is the last area where price would reject from. If we do clear this kind of order block or supply, whatever the hell you want to call it, any sort of bullish price action above it becomes a long trigger. That's what's so beautiful about ranges as well. You play the range, you assume it's going to hold, and then eventually when it doesn't hold, great, well now you have a very clear bias and you can frame all of your trades going forward saying, okay, we've just broken out of a range. I'm expecting continuation in the direction of the range break. You can use that former range high as support, as a bias level, and all that fun stuff. Bitcoin itself has played as a range beautifully. And I think one of the reasons why so many people have been calling this difficult to trade is because they learn how to trade in this, and that's fair. They get introduced to crypto and up only. Every dip is rewarded. They never get punished. It just goes up and up and up, and the green candles are seemingly never ending. And then when you get into kind of a regime change like we have now, where yes, we get these aggressive moves up, but then they fully retrace all the way back down. Aggressive move up, fully retrace all the way back down. All of a sudden, you have to have another layer to your trading. You have to be able to take profit, right? You have to know, say, hey, I longed near the range low, but I got to be willing to close this position because there's a good chance it might retrace. And I think a lot of people are probably struggling with that right now, whereas every time you've longed the lows here, it's pumped and then fully retraced. Well, is this time different? Is this the one that you hold on to and it keeps going? But to me, if you longed sub 60K and you're taking some off around 70, you can add that position back once you get some confirmation. So I am hoping that this is the time the range breaks, but I think being cautious here is really smart because if it's going to reject, this is exactly where it should do it.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people are on kind of a similar wavelength. I'm actually close to max allocation, closer to 80% allocated now. So I am bullish. People can assume that if you're warning people or exercising caution at range highs, people can say, oh, you're too bearish here. You need to believe. I would love to see us break up and break out of this range. But until that happens, I'm just exercising caution, not assuming that this time is going to be different. I think I posted a chart the other day just saying, you know, we've smacked into this channel high / range high, whatever you want to call it, like 6-7 times this year. And each time we've rejected pretty harshly. Something I always talk about is trying to be a reactive trader rather than a predictive trader, right? Wait for the market to show its hand and then kind of act accordingly.
100%. I'm one of the biggest bulls out there. Every time we've come down and made a new low here, I've told everyone that I've sold 0 spot, and in fact I'm looking to buy more. I have no interest in selling any of my spots, so I always like to preface things when I tell people like, hey, like on the 12-hour chart here, yes, we're pushing up here, right? But you could argue, depending on how these next few candles close, that we're kind of losing some momentum. So there's two ways that this goes, right? Maybe a little higher, and then it's going to pull back and it's going to crack, or it's going to break out with a massive green candle. Up or down, bro, I get it, right? So on the H4 on the RSI, we have a bearish divergence here. We have higher highs on price and we have lower highs on the RSI. Now, I don't need the RSI to tell me that the strength of the move is getting relatively weaker. You can use your eyes. How do we view that in price action? The highs are getting relatively weaker. A really good example of this is the previous all-time high. Even on the weekly, we had higher highs on price. We had lower highs on RSI. Same thing here, right? Do I need the RSI to tell me this? No, because I can see that we had a major higher high here, a more marginal higher high here, and an even more marginal higher high here. This is how reversals form generally, is you get relative strength weakening. This happens at bottoms too. Lower lows on price, higher lows on the RSI, but it was a low, slightly lower low, slightly lower low after a massive lower low. So you can tell the strength of the move is weakening. The only way for this to bust is to get a massive green candle. So that is still something that can happen. So I'm not saying to all-time high, but over 70 up to these equal highs over here. And that's 2 or 3% or whatever it is. And it's a big green candle. And then we correct. or I think the high is getting put in right around here. And then I do think there's a very good chance that we come and retest one of these demand zones. Now, the problem is a lot of people will hear me say this and they'll say, well, Mayne is bearish. I'm absolutely not bearish. I'm thinking that we're going to be at 80 or 90K, in November, maybe sooner, but definitely before the end of the year. I think we could even see 6-figure Bitcoin. So me hoping that we get some sort of pullback into here or into here, I'm talking about trading. I would look to take leverage longs here. I would look to trade altcoins here that I think are bullish and might be higher beta than Bitcoin. I'm not saying, hey, oh my God, I think we're going to drop down a few $1,000 and I'm going to sell my spot. I still think we go much higher. So I always like to preface that, right? I'm still very much a major bull.